So first of all, a very warm welcome to the session that we are having today, which is called as Campus to Corporate. Now, what this session is all about or who is going to take the session, I'll guide you accordingly. But first, let's understand this particular concept, which is Campus to Corporate. Okay, so first I want to know insights from you all as to what do you think the session is going to be about. You can put out your inputs in the chat as to what are you expecting from this session, because we want to know your expectations first, and then we can take the session accordingly to meet your expectations, right? All right, so please put it in the chat as to what are you expecting from the session, that is Campus to Corporate. What do you understand by this term? All right, so we have got one answer from Ashish, which is how to prepare for interview. Girish is also mentioning that how to prepare for the interview. All right. Okay, how to land as a desired job. Okay, how to get call for interview, how to make an impactful resume. All right, very good. Resume building good profile. Okay. Yes, others, please share your inputs as well. Let's make this session interactive as much as possible. Okay, technical interview is something that Rahul is pointing out, how to connect with recruiters for freshers, which projects to be added, how to prepare resume build up, soft skills. Okay, wonderful. How to prepare for one's interviews and present yourself in the employers through your CV. Okay, facts between campus and corporate. Okay, great. All right. So all of you are bang on or absolutely correct when you are stating your expectations. So this is exactly what the session is going to be about. Here we are going to understand your transition from campus, because right now all of you have taken up this course. You are learning the different technologies. You are building on your experience. You might be applying for jobs, etc. Right? So this is what you might be doing right now. But few months down the line, or some of you might be even actively applying for jobs, right? So you will be entering the corporate world. Right? So here you need to have this understanding as to when I'm going to enter the corporate world, what are certain requirements that I need to have, right? So be it my resume or be it when I'm sitting in for the interview, right? What kind of questions should I be expecting from the recruiter, and how to effectively answer the questions in the way that the recruiter gets happy with my response and I get shortlisted for the role, right? So here it's not just important that we just focus on the technical aspects. Obviously, technical aspects are very much important for you to get shortlisted, right? But apart from that, there are also soft skills that are mandatory when you're going to apply for jobs or when you're going to sit in front of the recruiter for the interview, right? This particular session is a combination of both. Here, we are going to focus on both your technical skills as well as your soft skills from an interview perspective, or to help you land a job. That is what the idea of the session is all about. All right. Okay. So to understand what the requirements or what exactly are we going to understand throughout the session, let's first go through the content of today's session. So what we are going to focus on today, this is the introduction. So the overview of the session. So first of all, we are going to focus on resume building. So here we are going to look at it from a non-technical point of view. That is when you're going to apply for jobs, right? So what is an industry standard kind of a resume that you might be building or you should be building? Okay, so what should the structure of your resume look like? What should the content, what all content should you add in your resume? What should you skip in your resume, right? Here we are also going to take a look at something called as ATS compatible resume. Okay, so that is what we are going to understand here. And then next, we are going to understand interview questions from an HR perspective, right? So because when you go in for interviews, the recruiter doesn't just focus on the hard skills part. Obviously, they will take your technical interview, but along with that, they will also take a HR interview of yours, where they might ask you basic questions like, can you please introduce yourself? Or can you please tell us why do you want to work for this role, right? What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses, right? Such kind of questions are thrown at you by the recruiter. So what is the strategy that you should be using? What answer you should be giving when it comes to answering such kind of questions, which are kind of difficult or tricky to navigate? That is what the next portion is going to be about, which is interview questions. Then the next session is going to be taken by Itvedant, who is our center academic head for the E-class department, as well as she is the ABM or associate branch manager for the training department. So she is going to hand over the next session or take over the next topic, which is going to be from a technical perspective. She has the technical guidance and the expertise to guide you accordingly from a technical resume point of view. So what should your technical resume look like? How should you be mentioning your projects? How should your GitHub profile look like? How should you be tailoring your skill sets according to the job that you're applying for from a technical point of view, when we talk about your hard skills? So those kind of things, Itvedant ma'am is going to take a look at. Then nextly, we are also going to tackle technical interview preparation, wherein how should you be preparing for a technical interview? What kind of interviews can you face when you go in for a technical interview in any organization for that matter? And what are the skill sets? What are the sections that you should be preparing yourself for? Commonly asked questions, etc., etc. So that is what we are going to discuss, or Ikwinder ma'am is going to train you on. So this is the overview of the session. And lastly, we are also going to have an alumni interaction, which I believe all of you might be excited for. So here we are going to have an interaction with our students from Itvedant who have gotten placed in different organizations, who are working in good positions, who have started their career, especially certain students are also coming from a non-technical background, right? So we are going to understand what their journey was, what their educational background was, how this particular course has helped them in their career, etc. So that is an interaction that we are going to have in the last bit of this particular session. So stay tuned for that. And you can also ask your questions to those students if you wish. Okay, so this is what our overview of the session is going to look like. So like I said, so firstly, let's focus on something that is at most required when you apply for jobs. So I have this question to all of you. So you saw a job opening on LinkedIn, right? Or you saw a job opening on the portal at Itvedant, or you saw a job opening on Indeed or Internshala, right? So what is the first thing that you do when you apply for this job? You can again put out your answers in the chat so we can take it from there. Okay, wonderful. So someone has mentioned job description. Okay, share resumes, outlook in JD, overlook in job description. Okay, share the resume, read the job description, skills needed. You're going to understand the skills that are required. Okay, apply for jobs, changes according to the JD. Okay. All right, skills that are required. Wonderful. Message to the HR and greetings and tell us about the skills. Okay, great inputs by everyone, right? So first and foremost, there is something that you should be doing before you apply for jobs, right? So the moment you see a job opening, be it a technical job opening, any kind of job opening that you might be applying for, the first and foremost thing that many of you, like you correctly pointed out, the first thing that you should be doing is you should be going through the job description. Everyone here knows what a job description is? Okay, if anyone is not aware, just a brief about job description. Job description or JD is nothing but a document wherein the organization has listed out all the requirements, the roles and requirements, the designation, the kind of role that you will be having when you are applying for this particular position, right? Or what is the duration going to be like? If it's an internship, then how long is the internship going to be for? Right? What is the pay scale, right? What are the benefits that you will be getting? What is the location of the job? All of those things are listed out in this particular document. So that is the first and foremost thing that you will be going through before you apply for the job, right? So that is something that you do. Once you are done with that, now the next step is you will be applying or you will be uploading your resume on that particular opening, right? So let's say it's for a junior software developer role. So now you read the job description, you understood, yes, I have the skill sets that are required for this particular position. The next step that I'll be taking is I'll be uploading my resume and then I'll be waiting for my resume to get shortlisted. Okay. Now, one particular challenge that students are facing when it comes to this particular process is many a times, I believe many of you might have also faced this, right? Many a times your resume doesn't get shortlisted. Even though the skill sets was a match, my resume, I believe I have developed it in a proper manner, but my resume is not getting shortlisted anywhere, even though there is 100% match between my skill set as well as the requirement of the organization. Okay. Now, can anyone tell me what is the reason why this happens? You are applying, आप apply कर रहे हो jobs के लिए, but आपका resume कहीं पर भी shortlist नहीं हो रहा है. Is there any reason to this? Okay. Arjun is saying it's not ATS compatible. Okay, wonderful. A resume, okay. ATS incompatibility, all right. Yes, others also please share your inputs. Doesn't matter if it's a wrong answer or it's a right answer. Please share your inputs, okay? All right. ATS score is lower. Resume design, it should be blank and aligned. Okay. ATS. All right. Yes, other inputs as well. Yes, others also please share your inputs. Okay, Ajinkya is saying because most resume reading is automated and not ATS compatible, so the format is not professional. Skills not match, ATS compatibility. Absolutely right. Okay, so all of you are absolutely correct when you talk about ATS screening or ATS compatibility of your resume. Okay, as well as the structure, the skills match, etc., that we are discussing. Okay? As well as there are other factors that are involved for your resume to get shortlisted when you're applying for jobs. Okay, so that is why our first focus is going to be on resume building, wherein we are going to focus on the content and structure. Okay. All right. So let's change the slide. So why do you need a good resume? It is the first impression to the recruiter, right? So generally, why do your resumes not get shortlisted? Because it's the first impression that you are sending out to the recruiter, right? It's kind of like you in a documented format, right? So if you don't add your skill sets, if you don't portray yourself in such a way that the recruiter feels like, yes, this is a person that I want in my organization, this is a person that I'm willing to give the opportunity, etc. If you don't showcase yourself in such a way, then the chances of you getting rejected would be higher, right? So it is the first impression to the recruiter or the machine that is going to screen your resume. Next is there are multiple applicants who are applying for a single job opening. Okay, so why multiple applicants? Because generally, if you have seen, especially when you're using LinkedIn or when you're using Naukri, such kind of portals when you generally use, if you see the number of applicants for a single job opening, right? There are multiple applicants. The opening is one, the job opening is one, but the applicants are 200, 300, 400. Right? So here you are competing between these 400 people, right? So you need to be the best in order to get your resume shortlisted, right? You need to present yourself in such a way that your resume gets shortlisted, right? So that is also very important. So that is the reason you need a good resume. And again, like all of you correctly pointed out, ATS systems are being used these days, right? So let's take an example that I said right now. Okay, so you're applying for a job, you see that there are 400 applicants. So now this is a huge number, especially for a single job opening. This is a huge number, right? Now, if I take, if I talk about a bigger organization for that matter, the numbers go even higher, right? If there's an organization like Microsoft, an organization like Google, which has a job opening, can you imagine the number of applications that this particular organization might be getting? I can't even count, right? It might be in thousands. It might be in 10,000s, right? So here, why companies deploy something called as ATS systems is because it's not possible, it's not humanly possible for a recruiter to sit and scan through these thousands of resumes. It's time consuming, it takes up unnecessary administrative cost, etc., etc. So it's not required for that matter. Okay, so what companies these days, and I'm not just talking about the major companies like Google or Microsoft, I'm even talking about the smaller companies which are utilizing systems these days. What ATS stands for is applicant tracking system. Okay, so that is the full form of ATS. So this particular system is being used by these organizations to filter out your resume in the initial part, right? So out of these 1,000 people, this particular software is going to scan through your document or this resume and going to understand whether you are fit for the role or not, if the skills are matching or not. If it's not, it's going to reject you in the first place, and your resume gets get the message, sadly your resume has not been shortlisted, your profile has not been shortlisted. Okay, so that is why you need a good resume, or you need to craft it in such a way that even the ATS systems accept your resume. Okay, so that is quite important. And again, good resume is also required for you to direct the interview. Direct the interview in the sense, when you sit in front of the interviewer for an interview, initial conversation is always based upon the resume that you have crafted, right? The way you have written the resume, आपने क्या-क्या add किया है. Let's say you have an experience previously, so experience पे आपको questions पूछा जाता है. You will be asked questions on the experience, right? Or if you added skills, obviously you will be asked technical questions, right? Or if you have added projects in your resume, they can ask you technical questions will be asked. Along with that, they might also ask you non-technical related questions related to your projects, like what are the challenges that you faced, or what are the future enhancements that you might bring about if you want to modify this project altogether. So such kind of questions are asked. Okay, so it's kind of a way to direct the interview. Or if you've added your hobbies for that matter, you mentioned that your hobbies are reading, you mentioned that your hobbies are trekking, right? So such kind of questions are asked as to, what kind of books do you read, who is your favorite author, etc., etc., right? So always keep in mind, whatever that you're going to add in your resume, you should ensure that you should be well versed or thorough with whatever content that you have added. That is really important because it's a way to direct the interview. All right, okay, so now next, understand the content of your resume. Okay, so when you talk about the content, what all things should you be mentioning in your resume? Okay, so we're going to start from scratch. That is A to Z of your resume is what we're going to take a look at. So I have this question to you all. So when you start your resume, we start with the basic details, right? Basic details is nothing but the topmost part of your resume. All right. So now when I talk about the basic details, I want inputs from all of you as to what kind of information would you add in the basic details. What should you add? What should you exclude? Can anyone point that out? Or what are something that are really required in your basic details section? Okay, name, contact number, name, email ID, all right. Okay. Education, project skills, all right. Name, contact, name, email address, LinkedIn address, okay. Date of birth, place of residence. Okay. Someone has mentioned date of birth, all right. Email ID, certification, GitHub, okay. Qualification, all right. Okay, objective or summary, all right. Projects, okay. Okay, fine. So let's focus on the basic details part. So that is obviously going to be the first section of your resume, right? This is the section wherein you're going to add information or basic details, in the sense the sections wherein the recruiter can get in touch with you. Okay, so now when you talk about basic details, obviously your name is going to be there, right? So there's a way to write your name in your resume as well. Don't add it in small letters, or don't the font size should not be smaller, right? Or the font should not be something that you is uniform that you're using throughout the resume. It should be something that is bigger. So maybe a font size of 18 or 16 to 18 is something that you're going to use, and ensure that you're capitalizing it. Okay, and your formal full name should be there along with your first name and your last name, that is your surname. It should be there. Okay, all right. Now, other details when I talk about it is is the way through which the recruiter can get connected with you. Okay, so you're going to provide two details for that. First is your email ID. Okay, email ID is something that is mandatory. Okay, so email ID, when you're writing your email ID, ensure that you are adding a formal email ID. When I say formal email ID, I mean to say not a funny email ID like a stylish @gmail.com, right? Funky Rohit, such kind of email IDs students do write at times. Okay, so ensure that you're not adding such silly usernames or silly email IDs. Make a formal one consisting of your first name, your last name @gmail, or whichever platform that you're using. Okay, so that is something that is required. Second is your phone number, obviously, so that the recruiter can give you a call and they can get connected with you, right? To align an interview or to get to know a bit more about you. Okay, so you're going to provide your contact details. So your phone number is going to be there. All right. Now, other information. So some of you have mentioned address, right? So what is everyone's take on this? Should you be adding your complete address in your resume? When I say complete address, I mean your postal address. Okay, is it required or not in your resume? Okay, so many are saying no. All right. What is the reason that all of you or majority of you are going with no as a answer to this question? Okay. Only district and state. Okay, only city and state should be mentioned. Okay, all right. Absolutely. Okay, so never ever reveal. One thing that you need to keep in mind is never ever reveal too much personal information about yourself on your resume, right? Already you have two details, that is your phone number and email ID. If the recruiter wants to get in touch with you, they can give you a call and they can direct the interview, etc., etc., right? But there is absolutely no need to add your complete address. Yet there are many students who add complete addresses in their resume, which is absolutely not required. Okay, you're providing a very sensitive detail about you on a document like your resume, which is going to be forwarded to n number of companies, n number of people. It's going to be circulated everywhere, right? So it's like a security threat when you add a photograph, not a photograph, or an address of yourself in your resume. Okay, so you need to skip that. Instead, what you can write is your location. Again, here also you need to be mindful when you're adding your location. So only mention your precise location. So I'll just give you an example of Mumbai, right? So if you're someone who's residing in Mumbai, or let's say Navi Mumbai for that matter, you are someone who resides in Ghansoli. Okay, now it's a part of Navi Mumbai, right? And you're applying for a job which is based in Mumbai, the western side of Mumbai. And it takes you quite a bit of travel to reach there, right? So let's say it takes you 1.5 hours of travel, train travel, for you to reach this particular location. Okay, now if you mention your specific location in your resume, okay, then the chances of your profile getting rejected on the basis of location can be high. So here, the company is going to prefer a person who resides in that particular locality itself than a person who resides in a faraway distance. Okay, so here, without even giving you a shot of calling you in for the interview or getting to know you a little bit more, the recruiter is simply going to reject you on the basis of your location. So instead, we are going to do smart work. So if you're applying for any company within Mumbai, add your location as Mumbai, Maharashtra. That would be more than enough. Okay. Again, if you're applying for a company which is out of Mumbai, let's say you're applying for a company which is in Bangalore, which is based out of Bangalore. Okay. So here, what you're going to do is don't mention your location altogether. Okay. So here, again, your chances of getting rejected because you reside in Mumbai gets decreased, because any company would prefer a person who already resides in that particular city than investing in a person who needs to relocate and they need to provide extra expenses, etc., etc. They would prefer a person who already resides in that city. So here, for our resume to get shortlisted, what we are going to do is we are going to remove our location altogether. Or one more option that you have here is add your location, and in brackets you can mention open to relocate. So these are the two options that you have, but the first one that I mentioned is the more preferable option. Okay, so this is what you're going to do. So none of you are going to add your specific locations, add the major city that you belong to. Okay? So that is something that is required. Now coming to other details, so you're going to also add two social profile links, professional social profile links in your resume. So first is going to be your LinkedIn link. Okay, LinkedIn is a platform through which you can connect with recruiters, you can build networks, you can apply for jobs. So it's like a professional Instagram. That is what LinkedIn is, right? So it's very important for you to have a profile on this platform. So you're going to add the LinkedIn username of yours with a hyperlink. This is something that's important. So all of you who don't have a LinkedIn account yet, I will highly suggest each and every one of you to create one, okay, and then start getting connected with people across, your industry. So that is the one thing that you're going to add. Second is a GitHub link. Why is a GitHub link important or username important? It is because you belong to a technical profile, right? So when you belong to a technical profile, you will be working on projects at a personal level, etc., etc. So GitHub is a place where you're going to upload that. So that particular username needs to go in your resume. Okay, so this is something that all basic details are going to comprise of. Now you might have this question whether I should be adding my photograph in my resume or not, right? So again, photo is a debatable kind of a question here. There is absolutely no need, or there is no mandatory thing for you guys to upload your photograph in your resume. This is something that is completely optional. Okay, but if you ask me, I would not suggest any one of you to add a photograph, because your profile, the designation or the position or the domain that you are all going into does not require a photograph altogether. The shortlisting that is done is on the basis of the skill sets that you have and what you have done in this particular profile. What kind of certifications have you gotten? Only that determines the reason to get shortlisted or not. Okay, there are different profiles wherein you have to face a lot of client interactions, etc., in which photograph in your resume is required. But in your profile, photo is something that is optional. But if you're making a choice to add a photograph, ensure that it's a formal photograph, no selfies, no filtered kind of photos, nothing of that sort. Okay. So I hope basic details section is clear for everyone. And the reason I spent quite a bit of time explaining it is because many students make a lot of mistakes in this particular section. All right. Next section that we are going to talk about is your career objective. Okay, so this is something that is optional. So if you're making use of a career objective or a summary, don't add a generic kind of a career objective, which is to secure a designation in an organization where I feel I will be able to make an impactful contribution. This is a very generic career objective that you're writing, right? So if you're adding a career objective, ensure that you are speaking about your profile, your skill sets, and what you can bring about from a professional point of view to the organization, right? So that is what your career objective or your summary should look like. So if any one of you are experienced in the domain that we are talking about, in IT itself, if you have experience, you can create your career objective in such a way that I have XYZ years of experience in the domain of full stack development. I'm proficient in the skill sets of front-end development, back-end, etc., etc. You can create a career objective like that. Okay, that is the second section. Again, it's an optional thing. It's not something that is mandatory. Third is skills. So this is again a very important section for any kind of profile that you're applying for. So here, you're going to, the prime focus is going to be on the technical skills. Again, I'm not going to explain it a lot because Ikwinder ma'am is going to, like, delve more into the technical skill sets of your resume. So this is a section that you need to have in your resume. You can also add your soft skills. So again, it's optional. So you can go through the job description and understand what kind of soft skill does this particular role require, something that's mandatory for this role. And then you can understand that and you can add that in your soft skills section of your resume. Okay. Next is projects. Again, a very, very important section for all of you. Again, Ikwinder ma'am is going to delve deeper into these two sections. So let's not discuss more about it. Next is course and certifications. So any courses that you have undertaken, any training programs that you might have gotten or undergone, right? Let's say the course that you're doing from Itvedant, right? Or any course that you might have taken from, let's say, Microsoft or let's say Udemy, such kind of platforms, right? So this is a place for you to mention that particular section, as well as the certifications that you have gotten. Certifications are quite important because this showcases the proof to the skills that you have. Right? So if I'm stating that I'm proficient in web development, right? If I have a certification from any particular institution stating that I have gotten a certification, I have given an examination on web development, that will add more credibility to the skill sets, right? It will make my skills more impactful. So this is another section that you need to add in your resume, all right? Next is work experience. Now, work experience is applicable. So any of you who are freshers, this particular section obviously is not going to be there. I have seen many students creating a work experience section, those who are freshers, creating a work experience section, and then they add something called as fresher over there. That is absolutely not required. If you are a fresher, this section is not going to exist in your resume. Don't create a different section and mention specifically that you're a fresher. Okay, don't do that. Okay. If you have any internships or let's say like you have a full-time work experience, this is a section for you to add that, along with the designation that you were in, the duration that you work for, the organization that you were employed with, right? What were your roles and responsibilities? Okay. Now there are many students at Itvedant who are coming from non-IT background. You're coming from a non-IT profile, right? Now you might have this question. So here, should I mention my work experience or not in my resume, right? So the answer to this question is, if any one of you have experience of more than, let's say, 1 year or 1.5 year, then ensure that you're adding it. But this is not going to be the highlight of your resume, right? So when you're crafting your resume, when I'm talking about the order of your resume, don't add this in the first section itself because it's not a relevant experience, right? So if you have experience in, let's say, the domain of HR, human resources, right? That is something that is not at all related to development or analysis for that matter. It's a technical profile. The experience that you have is in a non-technical profile, right? So here, what you're going to do is you're going to mention the experience. Let's say you work for an as an HR for 5 years, right? If you don't mention it, it's going to look like a career gap in your resume, but it's not genuine, right? You were working or you were employed during that period. So what you're going to do is you will mention it, but just in brief, just for the recruiter to understand. Okay, so this is the profile that you came from, and this is the designation that you worked in for the past 5 years. And now you're switching to the field of IT. So obviously the questions will also be asked as to why you switched, etc., etc., etc. So here you need to be prepared well for that. Okay? So this is the work experience section. Next is education. Again, a very important section, right? If you have completed your highest qualification is 12th, then 12th is the first thing that you're going to write, followed by 10th HSC or SSC that you have done. All right. So if your highest qualification is master's, first that is going to come, followed by your bachelor's and then your 12th. Okay. Now here, when I talk about your education, I would like to point one thing. So I've seen many students mentioning their college's name, right? There's no harm in that. But whenever you're mentioning your college's name, and if you are not coming from a college which is recognized by everyone, right? Then do one thing, also mention the university's name, the university that you belong to. This particular college is affiliated to. That is, there is Mumbai University, Delhi University, Amravati University, so on and so forth, right? So add the university's name so that a person who's scanning through your resume, even if the person does not know the college, they can understand, okay, this is a university that this particular person has graduated from. Okay, so that is something that is required. Add the university's name as well. Also coming to your CGPA, right? So many students do mention their CGPAs, which are like 48%, or a percentage, which is 48%, or CGPA, which is like 6.1 or 5.9, right? Which is not an impactful kind of a CGPA that you're showcasing, right? So here, what you need to do is you can scrap it all together, or you can convert it into grades and you can mention it. All right. So don't mention the CGPA if you don't have an impressive or something that is going to put you in a positive manner. If you don't have that, don't mention the CGPA. All right. So this is something that you can exclude from your resume. All right. Then lastly, awards and achievements. If you have any awards, you have won Employee of the Year, Employee of the Month, or you have gotten a particular prize or a certification, you participated in a particular competition and you got awarded, you were first prize, etc., debate, elocution, or any sports related activities, anything of that sort. If you have, then this is the section for you to mention it. All right. Awards and achievements. Again, if any, because if it's not applicable, if you don't have any, you need not create the section altogether. But if you have, then this is the section for you to mention it. All right. So this is the resume content.